Hey everybody, welcome back to another Art of War stream. Today is a super exciting one because I get to talk about 10th edition.
10th edition!
And I'm here with Q Money, my
What's up?
favorite lead commentator co-host. Q Money is going to drop some fun facts.
I got a fun fact. Fun fact of today is that helium was the only element not discovered on Earth.
Really?
It was discovered in the sun. That's why it's called helium.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. The more you know. So now that we know fun facts about helium, we're also going to learn fun facts about Warhammer, because believe it or not, we're a competitively focused Warhammer channel, and we're trying to help you learn the game and become your best. There's a lot to learn. 10th edition is right upon us. 9th edition is 1 foot out the door. 10th edition is 1 foot in the door. Tons of content coming out all over the place. And you know what's super exciting?
What's super exciting?
I had the privilege of playing 10th edition on Games Workshop's Twitch channel.
You got to play 10th edition?
Yeah, it was so
You got to play
awesome.
10th edition?
It was so cool.
I'm so jealous.
It was so cool. So I didn't write my list. I don't have points. I don't have all the cool stuff like that. They kept those secrets in James Workshop's workshop. But you know what I did get to do? I get to play with my index data sheets, a lot of which we previewed on the Games Workshop official Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Warhammer. This past weekend, we had the Kansas City Open. At the Kansas City Open, there was a whole team tournament. It was awesome. It was a great time. Art of War won!
Woo!
And,
Third place!
Hey! And additionally, we got to do 2 exhibition games. First one was Death Guard versus Demons. Second one was my Eldar versus Andrew Gagno's Astra Militarum. Mm-hmm. Both games were pretty wild. Both games were opposite. We saw some new missions, really exciting stuff, and I'm here to talk about it. Here to give you the inside scoops.
So Nick, as an Eldar player, I have to ask you, what was your favorite part of the new Eldar?
What was my favorite? All of it, yes. I mean, that was awesome.
Were they good?
They were great. They were great. I'm not gonna lie, they were pretty good. I'll have to get back to you on my favorite part. I'll think about that throughout this video, and we'll do it. So do us a favor. If you like this video, leave us a like. Subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep producing this kind of content for you. We love producing this content. We love helping you get better at Warhammer, and we can't do it without your support. So please, please, please click that subscribe button and leave a comment telling us what you thought. What are you excited for about 10th edition? What are you excited to play? What are you looking for? And just give us your general thoughts. Also, tell us about Quentin's fun fact. I want to hear about that. Are you ready, Quentin?
I'm so ready.
You're so ready.
I'm so ready.
I'm so ready.
I'm very jealous of you, Nick. You got to play a game with the Eldar Codex.
I'm sorry, I did. I really did.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But that's what I'm here to share. I don't want to keep it all to myself. So, just one thing. There's going to be a lot of questions in the chat, I'm sure. I'm sure everyone wants to know the inside scoop of 10th edition. I cannot talk about things that I cannot talk about. That's just the truth. And with that in mind, we're going to talk about what I can talk about. And if you have any specific questions, please feel free to send us a super chat, and I'll happily answer them. You know, that's how we can get back. Or do my best. So, where do we start, Quinn? Where do we start? What do you want to know about 10th edition?
I want to know... Was it 40K?
What's it 40K?
I have this fear, right, whenever there's a new edition, that all of a sudden the game is going to be radically different, and then it's going to be just like, I'm not going to recognize it, and that I was playing chess, and now I'm playing checkers, and did it feel like a game of 40K?
It really did. Okay, so I've been saying this for a while as we've been getting rumors and previews and tidbits about 10th edition. Now I've played it, so I feel a lot better that I can confirm it. 40K is still 40K. The scale is a little bit different, I would say, is the biggest learning curve change. I mean, there's new missions. Those are not going to be quick and easy to learn, but, you know, we will try to simplify that for you. We have a whole mission sheet video that's broken down everything, heavily edited by Q Money himself. So definitely check that out. That's on our YouTube channel. We have tons of other video content breaking down how 10th edition works in our War Room. More on that later. But long story short, it definitely did feel like like Warhammer. You know, you moved your models, you shot your opponent, stuff died all over the place. It was chaotic. It was war. It was Warhammer. It was really fun. It was different. The biggest thing that was different is the scale of the game.
Okay.
So in a lot of Warhammer, for a lot of Warhammer's existence, for those of you who played previous editions, toughness was really like 3 to 5. Your toughness brackets existed in 3 to 5, and your strength was all over the place relative to that toughness. Now toughness ranges from like 3 to 14 or something really high like that. And with that, the weapon strength hasn't changed nearly as much as the toughness characteristic has changed. A Meltagun is still strength 8 or strength 9. A Rhino's toughness 10 though. So instead of the Meltagun just being like, dead Rhino, it's like, I help, I wound. That kind of interaction across the entire game, really, it's a learning curve. It's going to take you a little bit getting used to figure out exactly how tough stuff actually is practically and how strong stuff is practically. I think that's going to be a big learning curve.
Okay, no, I think that's a really good thing to know. So what did you think of the way the changing CP being done?
So CP is just really more valuable, right?
Okay.
I mean, you start with 0. So if you just think about it in terms of economics, starting with 0 means you don't get to have the luxury of choosing to start with up to 6 like right now. And it doesn't mean you can spam Fire and Fade for turn after turn after turn in 2 CP. You have to build it up. So what I found is in a current 9th edition codex, you used to have like 20-something stratagems, and you use the same 4 to 5 over and over and over again. In the new 10th edition world, you have the 6, 7 rulebook stratagems, plus you have 5, 6 core stratagems for your army. So out of the 12 stratagems you have available to you, give or take, you're going to use the same 2 to 3 over and over again.
Okay.
I mean, you have a lot of access, but there was a game, when my game of Landry Ganyu, I used lightning fast reactions, -1 to hit, same thing. And I was trying to do this against a lot of his indirect fire. Guard don't really have too many rerolls. Their blitz skill's not amazing, so I was like, -1 to hit. This is the time to use it. My wounds are very high value, so I'm not trying to lose my warp spiders or jet bikes to the wyverns. I used lightning fast, died anyway, super regretted it. Wish I saved it for like literally anything else, because I have amazing strats in the Eldar Codex.
So what would you say is the best strat in the Eldar Index?
In the Eldar Index, I would have to say it's actually Phantasm. And a lot of people, I think, would assume it's Fire and Fade.
That strat seems banana land.
So for those of you who don't know, Phantasm has changed. It used to be a redeploy of 3 units at the start of the game, which is amazing, but it's also gone.
I used it a lot at KC.
I'm sure you did. Yeah. I'm sure you did. But now Phantasm is at the end of your opponent's movement phase. You're going to spend 1 command point and just move your unit. So let me tell you what Fire and Fade is currently and why it's so powerful. Current Fire and Fade right now lets you move a unit after you shoot with it, so you can use that to go back behind a wall after you attack something, or get to a spot of safety after you reveal yourself to do damage.
Or go forward.
Or go forward and get behind enemy lines and something like that. Phantasm is now triggered at the end of your opponent's movement phase, so it's not so much used to get behind enemy lines at the end of your own turn. That forward momentum is kind of not there. But what it will be used for is perfect knowledge reactivity. I can, you moved here to get an angle on me? No, you didn't. Oh, instead, I can stack it with Fire and Fade. I can Fire and Fade 1 unit back behind the wall on my turn, and then the other unit that I exposed back behind the wall in your turn, There's just a lot more to do in your opponent's turn. I think that's going to be a huge change as well for people learning the game and trying to come to grips with it. I'm the kind of person who's very trusting on the Warhammer table. I'm very friendly and I'm very thorough. So I like to pre-measure everything. I like to be on the same page with my opponent communicatively, and I like to make sure there's no funny business going on both for me and my opponent. What this does allow is the opportunity for me to go take a break, especially in tournament play, but in any game. My opponent's movement phase starts up, they're thinking, they're planning, they're plotting. I've pre-measured, so I know this is that far and it's been articulated, that's that far. You can't over-move against me because it won't do anything. We agreed it was a 7-inch charge. So I don't mind taking those risks, and generally those people don't really exist at Warhammer tournaments. You can have a great game with just about anybody.
Not anymore. The game has really gotten very,
the scene
very
has
kind.
evolved.
Yeah.
So I would say, in general, the fact that Overwatch is a strategy that everyone has access to. Overwatch basically means you get to shoot in your opponent's turn. I know. I know, Q-Money.
Oh God, they're all gonna die.
They allow you. Overwatch allows you to shoot your opponent in their turn, in their movement phase, before they make a normal move, advance, or charge, or fallback, or after that. So what this means is, there's so much back and forth interactivity. You could obviously, the first level of thinking here is like, my opponent moves, my turn to shoot him, and that's totally the case. But what I found was Andrew Gagne, being the excellent tactician he was moving his units to bait my Overwatch, and I would also bluff him about my Overwatch. So he was thinking about moving a Torox into the open to go hold an objective or do a thing. And then I reminded him that my Fire Prism, which is amazing. Fire Prism is 2 shots on its main profile, strength like 16, AP 4, and flat 6 damage. So it hits, it hurts. But when you Overwatch, you hit on 6s. But Eldar, of course, have fate dice. So I had a 6 in my pile, along with a bunch of other numbers of fate dice that I had remaining. So I explained to him, I can spend a CP to Overwatch. I can use my fate dice that is a 6 to hit, and use my Farseer to flip like this 2 to another 6. 2 hits. I wound you on 2s because I'm strength 16. I have 2 rerolls, one for my Fire Prison datasheet, one for my Eldar faction keyword. And wounding you on 2s with a reroll, very likely that they both connect. It's AP4, you don't get a save, it's flat 6 damage, times 2 is 12 damage, your Torox just dies. So I told Andrew all this right as he was moving his Torox, and I was like, if you want to move your Torox somewhere else, please go right ahead. I think that's an important dialogue to have as well. It's a lot more communicative, back and forth, cooperative, which is weird. You're playing a cooperative game with an opponent, but that's the way it works in 40k. And ultimately, I kind of bluffed him out. I didn't want to Overwatch the Torox. I had better stuff to do, but I scared him. I was like, I could totally do this. I don't have to, but, that's the choice. And he then moved his Torox, elsewhere behind a ruin where I couldn't see it, but, it's not where he wanted it optimally. And then I still had Overwatch available. Now, let's say I did make that Overwatch attack, and I knocked out the Torox. Yay, is me. And then Andrew would have been free to move the rest of his army around my Warp Spiders and my other units, which also have really potent Overwatches. So it almost feels like to me, instead of trying to dance around Phantasm and trying to dance around Overwatch and dance around these interactive, counter-reactive rules like Rapid Ingress as another example, you almost try to overload it. And part of why I say that is because the missions themselves, the tactical missions as well as the primary, really are different. They want to reward you for playing a very active game of Warhammer. I'm saying this as me, Quentin. I love my corner. I love my corner. I wrote the book about the corners. And the missions really, really
are not that.
My Eldar army wasn't in the corner.
No.
It just wasn't. So I'm kind of sad about that.
So talk to me about the new missions, Nick. So did you play tactical or did you play fixed?
I chose tactical because I wanted to get a bigger exposure about what the different ones were and just saw how it kind of worked.
Okay.
It worked out for me. I got almost max on secondaries, but I think that was kind of a combination of the flow of the game and how it overall went.
So what kind of stuff were the secondaries? Talk to me, what did you experience? Were there anyone that you thought were really easy, really difficult? What kind of stuff can we as players expect when we draw cards from the mission deck?
So a lot of them are about border control and standing in specific spots. Some of them, I'm trying to remember the names as well. One is called Storm Objectives or something, and as the name kind of insinuates, it's all about controlling an objective that your opponent controlled already at the start of your command phase in no man's land. Some of them are like Bring It Down, where you get points for killing vehicles. They all cap at 5 if you do tactical. If you do fixed, the same Bring It Down would cap at 20. So if your opponent is playing Imperial Knights and they have 15 Knights on the table, again, we don't know points, I don't know if that's accurate, but if they're playing Knights, maybe I'll take fixed objectives, I'll take Bring It Down, and I can score 20 points out of my 40 secondary points by just bringing it down. However, if I draw that card randomly in tactical missions, I can only score 5, and I have 1 turn to do it, basically. So I have to kill vehicles right then and there. It was kind of strange, because the very first turn, I drew Bring It Down, and Ganyu had a bunch of Toroxes in front of me, and I was like, points, and I got my 5 like that. But there was definitely an element where, if I drew Bring It Down on turn 4, after I'd killed all of his vehicles naturally, then I'd be sad about it. There is baked in stuff that says, if you've already killed all your opponent's characters for Assassinate, or if you've already killed your opponent's vehicles for Bring It Down, you can either score a minimum score on it or redraw the card for free. So there's kind of workarounds for that, but there's definitely a situation where my opponent's only vehicle is a Wyvern in the back, or they have one character and it's a Commissar in the back. And I have to keep the card, but it's very challenging to score it.
Now, did you play 7th Edition Maelstrom?
Oh, I played it all.
How does this new tactical deck compare to 7th Edition Maelstrom in your opinion?
Less wonky, less all over the place, more. It's fewer cards, right? In 7th Edition, the Maelstrom had 36 cards you could choose from, 18 of which made sense for the game, and 18 of which were more narrative themed, if I recall correctly. This has I don't know the exact number. I'm gonna guess 12. And of those 12 cards, all of them kind of make sense. They're about standing on specific objectives, engaging all fronts is about going in quarters, behind enemy lines is about going in your opponent's deployment zone, deploy teleport homers is about doing an action in a specific spot. It's all kind of things that if you played 9th edition, you're already familiar with as strategic concepts or secondary objectives, but it's more boiled down into this tactical drawing sequence.
Would you say that it is suited for competitive play?
I would.
Really?
The one thing... I think it's not perfect as a system, but the one thing we know about Games Workshop and the way they've been releasing rules over the past 3-4 years is that they actively evolve their rule set, which thank God, thank James himself. But I don't think it's going to come out and be amazing in terms of how accurate it is for competitive play. I'll give one example I didn't love. There was one objective that scores you 8 points, I forget its name, if you control your opponent's home field objective.
Storm Enemy Stronghold.
Storm Enemy Stronghold. Now let me tell you how 40k works. If I'm holding your home field objective deep in your deployment zone, I'm kicking your butt. or you have made some screening error and I snuck a guy on there, which is possible but unlikely.
Yeah.
More likely, I am kicking your butt and I am already through your lines and wrecking your stuff.
Yep.
And then I get rewarded 8 points for it.
Sort of sounds like a win more objective.
It's pretty much a win more. And then on the flip side, if you're the guy who's kind of on your opponent's half of the field, or on your own half of the field, and you're trying to play a game of competitive Warhammer here, but it's not going great for you, you draw that card. Super unlikely you can do that card. So the thing that I didn't love about the tactical missions, and hopefully they do something to solve this, is that it's very much back and forth in the beginning. And then as someone starts to pull ahead on victory, the cards get easier and easier to achieve because I have more and more board control under me. My ability to kill you is better because I have more stuff than you do. That's what winning 40k practically looks like, is a bit more board control, more stuff, points aside. So the fact that I score points for having more board control and having more stuff, only it doubles down on the concept. And
Okay.
Flip side, if you have less stuff and less
So
board
if you
control,
draw, say I'm playing Tau, and I draw, the legendary card Cast a Psychic Power, which I don't think is in the new deck, but was, prevalent in 7th edition. Am I just screwed? Is there any way of getting around that? Like, do I have any options?
to be honest, I played Eldar, right? But so I don't know. But I don't think Cast a Psychic Power in specific example exists because Psychic Power is now baked in as abilities on your data sheet. But I do believe there's something like if you draw Assassinate and your opponent's characters are not present, they're already dead, or somehow they didn't take any, or whatever it is, you can just discard it for free and redraw.
Okay,
I
cool.
believe is how it works. There's still a few rules I'm foggy on simply because I've played one game, like take it with a grain of salt. But largely speaking, I had a lot of fun playing the game. The biggest challenge I think is while the core rules are pretty awesome, and I mean that to the fullest. Like I like the fight phase, it's different. It takes some getting used to. It's different every edition. It takes getting used to every edition. There's still tactical depth there. I promise. I'll teach you that in the war room, in the link below.
Really soon, we've got some awesome plans. We're thinking about making a series of videos breaking down all of the really in-depth war room tactics. That stuff you guys can check out. If that's something you want to see from us, where you want to see really in-depth videos on specific tactical nuance in 10th edition 40k, drop a comment, let us know. Send me a DM, because I'm going to be the one making them, so.
Yeah, appreciate you, Quinn. Looks like we got Relic Scumpin member for 4 months. Appreciate you, Relic. Trying to steal objectives, did you ever want more objective control, or did it feel good, or did you feel missing OPSEC at all? Thank you, Go Art of War. Great question. So, objective control was very binary and then very tactical at different times in the game. So in the very beginning of the game, the objectives were in the specific mission we played, Servo Skulls, was all about treating the Servo Skulls almost like they were soccer balls or footballs, and you kick them 6 inches deeper into your opponent's side to score points, and in their turn, if they control it, they kick it 6 inches deeper on your side. So in theory, if you are both smashing each other with armies, the objectives don't actually move anywhere. I move some 6, then you move them 6 back, and vice versa. But as you start to get that board control and start to win the material war, you can start kicking that objective further and further down the line. So in the very beginning, when the objectives were all in no man's land, it was pretty binary. Like, I would move up to the objective and kill Andrew off the objective, so objective control was relatively irrelevant. I just held the objective. As I got the Servo Skull deeper into his lines, man, the game got tactical. Because now I'm deeper in Andrew's lines with the objective, and he's got more models around it, so we were counting up objective control. His tank was like 4. He had 1 guardsman nearby to give it 2 more. And I had a few warp spiders and a few storm guardians to try to contest it. And then Andrew moved this big blob of dudes nearby to be like, now I have this objective, surely. And then I was like, Phantasm, let me add 5 more models to this objective. So we had this whole back and forth interaction, and it then translated into Andrew having his shooting phase have to be redirected, because of course I Phantasmed at the end of his movement phase, once he's planned all of his moves and he's planned his turn out a little bit. That's when I was like, okay, you were going to hold this objective through the fact that you had more bodies on it, which would allow you to just move the Servo Skull 6 inches this way, which is what you want to do. Now that I've caused a wrench in your plan in the middle, or at the end of your movement phase, you have to readjust in the middle of your turn. So this caused his indirect fire to not shoot what it was originally planned for, ended up shooting the stuff, like Storm Guardians that were now clogging up the objective. At the end of it all, Andrew did end up controlling that objective, kicked it wherever he liked, but I had more army in other spots of the board because his target priority had to shift. Or he blows up the stuff that he wanted to blow up in the first place, but I score more victory points. And at the time of making that decision, that's a tough spot to be.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with that.
Did your list have any D cannons?
It didn't have any decans. It had 2 solo Shadow Weavers. We did get to see the decan datasheet because it's attached to that Shadow Weaver datasheet. We basically showed off all the datasheets in mine and Andrew's army, so we have some freedom to talk about those things. Beyond that, I don't really know the datasheets, but we did see the decan. And what makes the decan so silly, at least we think it's silly, we don't know points or anything like that, but is that it's 24 inches indirect fire, same like today. It's supposed to be a very strong indirect gun with low range, right? So it's kind of true to its form. D3 shots blast, so against those larger style units, 4 shots, 5 shots, 6 shots. And, strength a lot, AP good, D6 plus 2 damage. It's all pretty in line with what it is currently, and what is currently is a good unit, not a broken unit. I don't even run them in my current Eldar list.
I don't like them.
Yeah, I don't like them either.
They're really swingy.
They're swingy, they're unreliable, etc. But what really makes them awesome, in my opinion, is the combination of Eldar rules. They have devastating wounds, which is just an amazing rule across the game, right? Like 6 to wound turns your damage characteristic into mortals. So with the D-Cannon specifically, you can use Fate dice to ensure you get a 6 to wound, remove your opponent's ability to make an invulnerable save or anything like that. You could even use a second Fate dice, and this one doesn't have to be a 6 specifically if you don't have a 6 showing. Just use a 4 plus 2 because it's D6 plus 2 damage, or roll your damage characteristic, whatever. And you do 6 immortal wounds to your opponent. And that's good against a unit, that's good against a monster, that's good against a vehicle, that's good against everything. Mortal wounds be mortal wounds. So I'm moderately concerned, I'll admit. If they make them cheap and you run 9, you could probably table somebody with mortal wounds. But there's also every reality that they cost 120 points for a D-Cannon. And then you're not running 9. You're just not running 9, so it's you can only work with what you have in this instance.
We got 2 super chats.
2 super chats!
The first one is from Zlack Onion, $1.99 US. The game is actually less lethal, #, legalize flash kits.
Okay, I don't know about these flash kits, but in terms of less lethality, I think it's different lethality. There's really. I don't think it's necessarily more or less. Some units hit harder, some units are tougher, so in different scales is what I was trying to get at in the very beginning of this video. So a melting gun versus a rhino. That rhino is much, much tougher today than it was yesterday, 10th edition versus 9th edition. But a D-Cannon compared to a D-Cannon of prior is much more potent, especially when you factor in Fate dice and rerolls. What I found really fascinating in this I kind of articulated a little bit in our stream yesterday where we were ranking all the previews, is that Andrew's Astra Militarum had a 2 command point stratagem, which he used basically every turn to revive a full regimental unit. So this would be 10 guardsmen, 20 guardsmen, because they can go up to units of 20, or a unit of 3 sentinels, because they are also regiment keyword. So, he had 6 sentinels in his list, and throughout the game, I killed 15, I'm pretty sure. He had 2 units of 20 guard blobs, and then there were 4 units of 20 guard blobs by the end of it. And if you count up the points, I jokingly said this game is balanced because during the game, I jokingly said this. I was like, this game is balanced because I've killed 2,500 points of guard with 2,000 points of Eldar. And he's like, it's been more. But it's telling, though, because this is design philosophy at work. You can see it with Gene Stealer cults. They're just coming back to life left, right, and center. And the guardsmen, they come back to life for 2 CP, and they have Lord Solar Leontis, just gives them an extra command point to make that very affordable. So what would be a very broken mechanic today, just free reinforcement points, essentially, on whatever units, and they re-deep strike or re-strategic reserve, seemed kind of balanced, because, honestly, if you compare a guard las cannon, it hits on a 4, you can cast an order on it to make it hit on a 3. That's what a las cannon is. Versus an Eldar Brightlance rerolls a hit naturally and is higher AP and better damage. So it's why are these things balanced as equals? Oh, it's because you simply come back to life with yours. And I think that GSC is another indicator of that. Necrons with the reanimation have always had that shtick, but I think reanimation's better as well. So
reminds me a lot of AOS, where there's a lot more recursion mechanics.
There's a lot more recursion.
You have the rally stratagem, things like that.
So this is where I'm going back to the scale. Eldar definitely seem really powerful in terms of the fact they just are more efficient than my Astra Militarum opponent or the other data sheets that we've seen. But we don't know their points cost. My army didn't seem like it was ludicrously large when I played it. It seemed like, kind of less large than it is today, but kind of the same. And then I have not calculated in a points calculator how much my list that I played with would cost in 9th edition. That'd be an interesting exercise. But essentially, I think by adding in recursion mechanics, they've chosen a different dynamic or a different dimension to balance the game with. Not everything has to be competitive with each other, because obviously a guardsman shooting a las cannon should be worse than a custodes. but there's not only more guardsmen in respect that there's more of them that make up your 2,000 point army. The guard are just playing with 2,500 points or whatever it might be.
We have another super chat from Spencer Connell. Hey Nick, sadly missed your stream game. What are your thoughts on melee, if units fought? Will 10th be tough for pure melee armies versus shooting?
So, great question there. Thank you so much for your super chat, Spencer Connell. Melee, I think, is different, obviously. We did get into melee. I had a unit of 10 Scorpions with Karandris leading them, which is really cool, by the way, because Karandris is giving them all +1 to hit, and they have exploding 6s. Karandris himself is a boss with exploding 4s.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. You can do dirty, dirty stuff with Fate Dice on that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, you charge in, and my 10 Scorpions and Karandris basically killed 20 guardsmen and the 5 command squad that was attached to it. So this is unit 25 infantry models, plus like a commissar, plus like a Primaris Psyker. I don't know if that's a unique thing that Guard can do because their codex has strange, unique mechanics, but this was a 27 model or so Guard unit. So I just slammed Karandris and Scorpions right in it after like plinking away a few guys with Dire Avengers. And I wiped the whole thing. So, deadly melee is deadly melee. And I did get there, and that was cool and exciting. The other aspect of getting into melee is that the missions really reward you for going into the middle of the board and fighting over your objectives and scoring your tactical objectives. So I think you'll want to include a lot of small trash units, as I like to call them, like Vipers or Fenrisian Wolves or whatever you have access to go out there and do the Maelstroms and do the tactical missions and start contesting the objectives and just generally play 40k. So you don't have to use your super awesome stuff on the front lines all the time where it's probably going to get killed. In terms of pure melee versus shooting, it's hard to say, but I think strats like Rapid Ingress will dramatically help the melee armies actually get to grips with them. And then in terms of combat tactical depth, it's really interesting because you would think right off of the onset, like having to charge closest to closest, make base contact wherever possible, and the reduced engagement range of only being able to fight 2 ranks deep if everybody is base to base to base. That's all less tactically deep than it is today. But where the tactical depth comes into is actually in the pre-planning. Because you don't get much freedom and agency in how you charge versus how you fight, you get a lot of freedom of agency in how you move. So let me break that down for you. If you have like a 10-man unit of dudes all strong in whatever direction, and you just move them like a clump together, and they're all as close to the enemy as they can, and you roll your charge, you need to roll 3, you roll the 7 because that's average, you're going to end up with a lot of dudes basing and going closer to the enemy and pretty much engaging in melee in a common sense. What you could also do in that same scenario is take those 10 dudes and string them out in conga line style, so like the closest dude is still 3 inches away, and then the next dude is 5 inches away, and the next dude is 8 inches away, and so on and so forth. So the back dude in your unit is like 10 inches away from your opponent's unit. And then you roll your charge, and you roll your 7, and you go base with the closest one, you go base with the second closest one, you go base with the third closest one, and now your last 2 dudes, all they have to do is get closer to the nearest enemy and incoherency. So they go closer but to the left, and then closer but even more to the left, and then closer but even more to the left. And the tail end of your unit, which is like all the way over there in Guam, they're going to move from 10 inches away from the closest enemy model to 9.9 all the way over here. A lot like how you would use a 9th edition pile-in or consolidate to circumnavigate circularly around a base. You can use the diameter of a charge to get ever so slightly closer, so that you can then pile in and consolidate in whatever directions you like, by setting yourself up for it in the movement and then the charge and all that. And what I think will get really complicated, Quentin, is the fact that there's more interaction in your opponent's turn. So I can set all this up in my movement phase, but then I get overwatched, or my opponent uses Phantasm, or my opponent uses whatever strat they
heroic
have.
intervention.
Heroic intervention, yeah. What I think is most interesting about 40k and 10th edition compared to 9th is there's so much more to do in your opponent's turn. There's just and so much more to consider while you're doing your turn. 40k and 9th is very much it's tailored to the way I like to play the game, or have liked to play the game, where it's like I'm going to execute my strategy as flawlessly as I can, and hopefully that works. And my opponent doesn't really have much interaction in there while I'm doing my moves. But in 10th, you're doing whatever you want.
Especially with the fights first changes. We have another super chat.
We do have another super chat.
From Zinth25. Good morning, Art of War. Nick, do you have any idea what CSM's detachment rule is at this point? As far as I know, we're the only faction that hasn't had it revealed or even spoken about by GW in the focuses.
We did actually get the Chaos Space Marine preview. I don't know if it's their faction rule or if it's their chapter rule or whatever, but basically you can make a Dark Pact, which is a leadership check, for any of your Chaos Marine units that whenever they shoot or fight. And this is unit by unit, not army by army. So I'm going to shoot with my Legionnaires, and I can take my Dark Pact test. If I fail my Dark Pact test, I take D3 Mortals. That sucks. If I pass my Dark Pact test, I can choose to either get lethal hits or sustained hits. So that's either going to be 6 to hit auto wound or 6 to hit explode for my shooting attack. And then I could do the test again in close combat and do melee attacks. And what's cool is you can choose unit by unit. So if I have my Havocs with the heavy bolters, not a premier anti-tank weapon, but I choose lethal hits on them, all of a sudden 6 to hit auto wound, high volume of shots, now I'm killing tanks. And I have my Corn Berserkers, they're going into like an Astra Militarum unit of 27 dudes. Maybe I'll choose lethal or sustained hits and get more attacks going.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom. Appreciate your super chat. Beyond that, Zen25, I don't think we know much more about CSM, but thanks for your support on that.
GW will reveal the great mystery in time.
Soon. And as they do, we will share those tidbits and teasers with you and all of our analytical breakdowns for you in the War Room. You can check out the link. It's right there above Quinn, right up there. thewarroom.vhx.tv. What that's going to get you access to is a beautiful 3-day free trial, so you can really check out all of the content that we're putting out in 10th edition, breaking down those phases, breaking down the mechanics, and as we get access to these indexes and we're able to start talking about them, we will break down those point values, those interactions, those combos, and all kinds of cool stuff. So please don't go anywhere. Check out that War Room.
Got all kinds of fun stuff. We got all kinds of fun facts.
We got Fun Facts of Quinn. That's a new series. If you leave a comment and let us know that you want Fun Facts of Quinn to continue, they will surely continue and get enough traction. They may even become their own daily video.
That'd be super fun.
Imagine Fun Fact with Quinn every day.
I know.
All right, Quinn. What else do you want about 10th? I know you're an Eldar player at heart, but try not to just talk about Eldar.
I know, I really shouldn't. What were your thoughts on the new way that fight first and an apparent lack of fight last interacts with the fight phase?
It didn't come up in my only game, because Andrew's Astra Militarum, maybe not the quintessential close combat faction.
No.
I don't know how it will interact when two heavy melee armies go bashing into each other. I think it'll create much more of a chess match, where units are kind of like afraid to charge each other, where you're trying to set up scenarios where maybe... There's another tactic we can teach in the War Room where you have one unit base to base, one of an enemy unit as much as possible, and then you charge your fight first unit into the side of the unit, and then the enemy, of course, they're fighting first because they have the mechanic. They're going to have to misallocate all attacks to the models that are closest to them, hitting essentially your throwaway unit, while your good unit goes to Pound Town.
I have a fun story about that.
What's your fun story?
So at Kansas City, there were 2 orc players on my team, not both playing orcs, but 2 players who primarily play orcs. We had Sean Naden and Ben Urich, 2 of the best orc players in the country. And there's one moment where Ben goes to Sean and he says, "Sean, why do you have so many Gretchen in your list?" And Sean goes, "That's because I hurl them all to their deaths." And we couldn't figure out why Sean had so many units of Gretchen until we all walked by his table and his 40 Gretchen were all wrapping around all of his opponent's units with his mega knobs in the corners.
Yeah.
So that no one could hit the mega knobs. What
I love about 40k, and this will extend from 10th to 9th to 8th to 7th and all through every game of 40k ever played, is there's the raw power tactics you can use, and this is how people I think are going to break down the indexes, right? It's a very human, natural reaction to be like, this combo is really good. Even I'm doing it right now. Fire Prism plus Overwatch. It's right there. Scorpions joined by Commanders hit really hard. It's right there. Beyond that, though, there's all the creative ways you can use units for their utilities, such as Sean Naden using Grotz to engage a lot of units and do, a model has a value intrinsically by having a base. A Grot is a really cheap base. So being able to use that to your advantage tactically, super strong, and Sean's an amazing player who can obviously make use of that kind of level of tacticry. But that will exist in 10th, I promise you. So beyond finding what's broken and what's awesome and what's super powerful and what the combos are, if 9th edition dropped today, you would do the same thing. If we had all the knowledge we have in 9th, throw it out the window, here's the 9th edition codexes, figure out what's good, we would all start by figuring out combos and trying it. That's basically what's about to happen in 10th edition. And then as we gain more and more knowledge and as the meta develops, which is a day-by-day process this time, people will start to learn the value of like the Solo Viper or the Fenrisian Wolf or the Grotz charging in to soak the Overwatch, the counter interrupt strats. And that's all going to still be there. Always strikes first is an amazing rule. I think it's going to be game defining for close combat matches, but is it impossible to play around? Not at all.
We do have another member.
Shingo for 13 months. That is over a year of War Room membership. Appreciate your support, Shingo. Nick, are you planning on picking up new armies in 10th? Great question. I think I'm really going to focus in on a few armies and just really try to learn to master those. But of course, the nature of being a commentator and being a professional 40k player and all that stuff, I'm going to have to play some factions.
You know who is picking up some new armies for 10th?
What are you picking up, Cole?
I'm going to be picking up new armies for 10th. I'm picking up Death Guard and Space Wolves.
You're excited about Death Guard and Space
I'm actually really excited about Death Guard and Space Wolves.
What are you excited about? Tell me.
I'm excited about all the reveals we got.
Yeah.
Lord of Virulence seems really good. We got Terminators. We got Plague Marines. We got the Plague Burst Crawler. We got all kinds of fun stuff. So if you want to see more Death Guard or Space Wolves content, you can shoot me a message. You can talk to me. We can talk about those factions. And I'm going to try and get Death Guard on stream really soon. That's awesome. As soon as we get all the rules, as soon as we get the points, we're going to be in there. We're going to be making games. I'm going to beat all of you with my Death Guard.
I can't wait to see the day. You know, I have been an aspiring Death Guard player for the majority of the 9th, and I think it's time that I pass the mantle on to my Q-Money over here. You're gonna plague people up, Quentin.
Oh yeah, you're all gonna lose.
We actually saw Death Guard on stream as well. I commentated a game played by Death Guard versus Demons. This was by Rob Jones from Goonhammer versus Thomas Reedy, Goat Boy, as some of you may know him.
I played Goat Boy at KC.
They're both great people.
Wonderful people.
Wonderful people. So I couldn't find better representatives to play those armies. And you know what's awesome? The Death Guard were surprisingly powerful. So there was like this 10-man Plague Marine kind of walking around the middle field. He used a Rhino to drive it up, disembarked after the Rhino moved. So that added a lot of speed that does not exist in Death Guard today. Very excited to see that. And then those Death Guard Plague Marines, they, very similar to today's data sheet, have a variety of weapons and it's all free. Or at least, one can assume. And then they basically overwatched, I literally don't know how this happened, they overwatched Be'lakor, big, beefy, mean Be'lakor, and did like 10 damage to him on Overwatch, hitting on 6s. Yeah, right, think about that. Now we can assume that contagion range was applied here, and they have some sort of mechanics to help them buff their damage, but if Plague Marines just shoot and Be'lakor takes 10 on Overwatch, I think their damage is not going to be what's holding them back.
Good to know.
Good to know. Yeah.
We have another super chat from Yuan. Do you feel the objective marker rule, no stopping on the objective, will just become an ignored rule for tournament play?
It very well might be, genuinely. One of the rules in 9th edition that exists right now is that the center point of the objective marker can't be on or under terrain features. Very similar to this, you can't stand on it. Now, oftentimes, tournaments use pre-placed terrain layouts for the balance of the game and their own format's sake, which pretty agnostic to where the objectives lie. Or maybe not agnostic, but they're trying to put it onto an objective so you can hold that objective while being behind line of sight. They may do the same thing here. One thing I don't love about the new rule for objective markers not being able to be stood on is that it kind of creates these impassable terrain pillars, which are just exist, independently of the terrain around the table. And while many, many, many games will not be decided upon those facts, for those of you players who play like Imperial Knights or Chaos Knights, or those armies like Demons, which big models, not much fly keyword, very easily move blocked, having to navigate around a ruin is already challenging. Having to navigate a ruin plus your opponent's models is why that army is difficult to play. And now you add in the fact that I have to be move blocked by the objectives that I'm trying to hold. I think it's genuinely going to cause game imbalance, and I'm a little concerned about that. I hope the tournaments move to ignoring that rule for turn play, or maybe Games Workshop changes their mind about what direction they've gone in for those objective markers. Stylistically, the reason for that rule, I'm pretty sure, is because people love to make scenic objective markers. Why not have like a really cool thing on the objective 40 mil base? So it's a give and take there.
It's also totally possible that maybe we're going to get a GT pack or some kind of FAQ that might change this. We have no idea.
Yeah, it's time will tell.
Who knows?
It's not the biggest of deals. No. It's something to learn and adapt to.
It is annoying, though, if it just remains the case.
But you'll get used to it. Like, so much of 10th is brand new and exciting right now and sounds like the Wild West, but, like, as the first question started, 40K is still 40K.
Yes. I think that's one thing they've done a good job through every edition that I've played, is 40K still feels like 40K.
Yeah. And honestly, you can tell that they've done a good job through 9th edition making the rules match the lore. Things do what they're supposed to do. Armies kind of look like armies today. In 8th edition, you had 200 cultists fighting 200 brimstones, fighting 6 storm ravens.
Fighting all of the birds.
It's just not what 40K is supposed to be. But genuinely, like, 40K armies look like 40K armies today. And they play like 40K's armies today. Like, the war leaders go into combat, and the Eldar are nimble, fragile, and they shoot people. And largely speaking, that's kind of how armies' MOs and their identities line up. I don't expect that to change. It really felt like that. I feel like they've added more dimensions to the game, especially player interactivity on opposing turns, and that's really going to be the learning curve.
Okay. Did you have fun when you played 10th edition?
I had a blast. I mean, so I had too much fun, I think. The game was scheduled from go to 7 to 11, which is already incredibly long. This was the extra hour was to give us time to really learn the data sheets and kind of make our strategies and tactics and play a full length game. When you become proficient at it, I'm sure it'll speed up in gameplay. But Ganyo and I were having a blast. We were just chatting, we were talking, we were laughing about the game and just the funny interactions that we were discovering together about it. And we ended up finishing at like 11:30 at night. So was it fun? It might be too much fun. You know, the cool thing about 40K in this moment of time in its history is not only do you get an awesome time rolling models, hanging out with your opponent, rolling dice, but you're learning together with your opponent and with the people nearby playing you. So it's a group activity playing 40K right now.
I'm so excited, and I hope everyone out there is too.
Yeah, I am also. And the plethora of new innovative ideas that are going to be out there. One thing I don't love that the internet's naturally going to do, because internet does internet stuff, is that everyone who has any sort of underdeveloped opinions here are going to go on to internet, go onto the Reddit, go on the YouTube comment section, and state with 100% certitude of fact that this is how something is, this is too good, this is too strong, this sucks. You have no idea. I have no idea. Quentin has no idea. Not even James Workshop himself has any idea, maybe. We're going to find out together what's good and bad in this game. And that's what we're trying to do at Art of War here. We're trying to help you learn the game and become your best.
All right, Brian Aragon?
Brian Aragon.
Haven't heard much about the mono clowny clowns in 10th. Are they getting any love this edition? I have no idea, but you bet your gosh golly that I'm going to find out as soon as we can.
Do you have opinion about the clowns, Quentin?
I love clowns.
You love clowns.
They are rainbow men in tights. What is not to love?
That's true. That's absolutely true. Thank you so much for your super chat, Brian Aragorn. We haven't had much love of clowns, given that they finished pretty much all their faction previews, and we didn't get one about Harlequins. I'm a little unsure of if they wrap that up into Eldari, kind of like they did before, and then it'll just be in that larger index when we get it. That could be the case. It could be their own army, which I hope, I love clowns. I have a whole clown army. I would like it to not disappear.
I also have a whole clown army. We have 2 in this house right now.
Yeah. Hard to say. Definitely hard to say. But hopefully there's still clowns. I think they're going in the direction of adding armies to the game, not subtracting them. Like Leeds of Otan came out. Harlequins got a codex when they didn't otherwise have one. So I'm hoping they don't renege on that idea.
Yeah.
More rules, more fun, Mm-hmm. What I will say is that 40K is huge. And it's almost endless. As we try to codify this game and relearn it all over again for the first time, it's only reapparent to me how big this game is. I would be utterly shocked, and I don't say this as a negative critique, I say this as a matter of fact. I would be utterly shocked if Games Workshop hit the nail on the head right out of the gate and they redid the indexes for every single data sheet in the game, and the core rules, and the missions, and everything came out with 100% tournament level balance. What I don't expect, though, is that they're complacent about it. I think that it'll be a little wonky. There will be interactions that, you don't know what you don't know, so Games Workshop doesn't know what Games Workshop doesn't know. I'm sure they tried. I'm sure it's tried to be balanced. It felt fun, and I know that was one of the things they definitely considered when writing the new rules for an edition. How fun is it? How engaging is it? How much does this feel like 40K? Those are all factors in addition to balance. So when you consider all the different factors, and not just the scope and volume of the rules, but also the other goals attached to the edition release, you're going to have stuff that's like wonky in terms of raw power. But I'm confident, and I can say this as a commentator for the company, as well as someone who's played this game for nearly 20 years now, that they will do something about it. If the community feels a certain way, they have proven to us time and time again that the company is going in a different direction, and they will adapt and adjust and re-release. So whether they'll release a day one FAQ, who if I know? I know they're doing a designer's commentary. I imagine that's to clear up any ambiguities within the rulebook, or just tell us how some intent things are idealized. But largely speaking, I don't know when they're going to do balance updates. I don't know if they're going to do balance updates. I don't know what that's going to look like at all systematically. But I expect them to exist. And they nerf Leagues of Otan, day before it release kind of thing. And they've been pretty proactive with things like when Harlequins were broken, and then in 9th edition I'm talking about. So if something is just not right with this game upon release, and maybe they missed something because of the scope of volume of knowledge to cover here, likely more than unlikely, to be honest, expected even, I really think they'll do it. I think they'll fix it.
I'm excited.
Me
too.
too.
Excited.
Me too. I'm really excited as well. Let us know if you're excited. Let us know if you like this video, if you want to do more content about 10th edition, I'm sure you do. So, just leave us a comment telling us what you thought. Subscribe to the channel. That's really our best way of helping reach more people and teaching more people about Warhammer and helping them get better, learn the game, and become your best. So please definitely like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and if you yourself are interested in learning Warhammer and not necessarily competing at the top levels of LVO, we can help you with that as well. We've got plenty of ITC winners in this house. If you're interested in just getting the game, understanding it, having more fun with your hobby, and genuinely enjoying 10th edition, I can't stress enough to check out that link right above Quentin or down below in the description, thewarroom.vhx.tv. It's a 3-day free trial to Warroom, so it doesn't cost you a penny to join. You can cancel it whenever you want, and we don't make it difficult. We're not a gym. So, you just cancel it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But I think when you see the effort that we put into it, along with the quality of the knowledge and the volume of the knowledge that we are trying to deliver to you, the proof is in the pudding. If you enjoy the content, stay for it. So check it out, thewarroom.vhx.tv. That is our Warroom content. For now, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Quentin, thanks so much for joining me on this.
Thank
Your
you
fun
for having
facts
me.
are always appreciated.
They're always so fun. And thank you all for watching. I'm excited to see you guys around as we produce more 10th edition content.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. For now, we're going to sign off. We're actually going to be doing a game of 10th edition in about 2 hours from now, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's 11:15 right now. Your boys got to shower and eat before the game. But that game is going to be the starter set box. So I'm going to be playing against Archon Scary, one of our other Art of War coaches here. He's flown in from Canada for the week. And I'm going to be playing, I don't know if I'm the Tyranids or the Space Marines. We'll find out. See what he wants to play. But
Roll off for it.
nice little small-ish game just to get more familiar with those 10th edition mechanics. Check that out. That's going to be on this Art of War YouTube channel in just 2 hours. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Check out the Warroom, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and we will catch you later. Bye.